Welcome everybody. Let's get started. Yeah, the title of this workshop or whatever is The Life-Changing Magic of Curating Your Idea Library the Sublime Way. And I chose this because I love Marie Kondo, but my flavor of hoarding is not really physical stuff. I try to keep my workspace, my closet, all of that stuff pretty minimal. But I'm a big like collector and have historically been a big hoarder of ideas and things. That's just like the thing that I tend to overdose on. And I've sort of seen how that can happen in ways that are not super conducive to creativity. And I've learned a lot along the way. And so my hope today is that I can impart some of what I've learned around how to make that experience of curating your idea library, helping it serve you, feel more sublime. So in terms of what we're going to cover, so the broad agenda is why I keep an idea library, why I think you should keep an idea library. I tend to get pretty grandiose with this stuff. Maybe it's because Sublime still feels so illegible to so many people that I have this kind of tendency to just tie it to something big. So we'll start kind of big picture. Then we'll talk about the kind of principles and ethos and like the spirit that we try to bring into this space. And then we're going to get like loose and have fun. And I'm going to take you down a tour of my library and how I think about a lot of the questions that were asked in the chat around how to organize, how to optimize for flow state, how to integrate it into a writing process and things like that. And then, you know, the whole idea of this is to make it interactive. So at the end, we're going to leave some time to help you kind of set up and use some of these principles that we'll share to start yours. So yeah, so why you need an idea library. I chose to start with a slide because you can see here the kind of like that I'm struggling with language, basically. I think in a previous version of this workshop, I started with why you need a knowledge library. Some people call it a second brain. That feels so without heart. Knowledge library feels a little bit cold and sterile. Digital garden, a little too niche. So I tell my team that the kind of like big, hairy, audacious goal is that in 10 years, a Sublime library will be a thing, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, because the spirit is kind of in this vein, but it's something a little bit different. And in fact, I have a collection on my Sublime that I've been nurturing called Unexplainable, where basically I'm sort of grappling as somebody who basically spent years doing storytelling for other startups in my sleep. The fact that I kind of struggle to put words into this is it's just something that feels very top of mind. So I have this collection, and one of the cards in this collection, oh yeah, here it is. So Jimmy Buffett once said, "It's ironic that I was never categorizable and now I'm a category." And I just love that. So yeah, so back here. Okay, so why you need an idea library or whatever we call it. I was actually with my dad on a plane ride on Friday when I was working on this presentation, and I said, "This is going to be my agenda. Do you like it?" And he said, "Like, so why an idea library?" And my knee-jerk reaction was, I just like don't get how anyone whose job involves having good ideas can get by without one. And I think in some ways, this can happen consciously or it can happen subconsciously. What are we if not the aggregate collection of all of the things that we've consumed and internalized? And so this does happen subconsciously in many ways. But the reality is that, and this is a hill I'm willing to die on, is that our memories are fragile. The world's biggest lie is I'll remember that idea later. Our brains are really not for storing ideas. They're amazing at creating with ideas, figuring out, like making creative leaps, figuring out connections. But having the right idea at the right time is just such a powerful lever for creative work. And so I think in many ways, the why to have an idea library is really, I sum it up as like insurance for my mind. I love this save changes, anything not saved will be lost. That actually comes from Nintendo's quit screen message. I just love that so much. So I added that in here. But I think, you can try to pound your head against the wall and think of original ideas, or you can have an idea library. And if I think about this workshop, I could have started this keynote on a blank sheet, or I can say, here's this is my library. So the moment that I knew I was going to run this workshop, probably like 2 months ago, I created this collection and I started dumping all sorts of random things. A lot of them I didn't use, like looking back, some of it feels irrelevant, but I started dumping a lot of inspiration on here. And, you might think like this takes time, and it does. And I think, actually, one interesting thing that I had added to this collection was this card that I saw somewhere, and I added it here. I actually don't even remember where I saw it. But I loved how this represents not like non-coercive marketing, just honest marketing. Be honest, tell them the truth, because so much of the spirit that I want to impart today is, I think in the knowledge management space, so many people are looking for shortcuts, shortcut to insights, shortcuts to ideas. And the reality is that like these things take time. Somebody once asked me when I was in the heyday of writing a newsletter and churning out like essays weekly, what is the secret? And I think most people attribute to genius what is just time. And then maybe I would add today, like most people attribute to genius what is just time plus an idea library. But the point being that the moment that I knew that this workshop was coming, I created a container for it, started dumping inspo. And one cool thing about that we've kind of introduced, because one thing is, let me save this for later. Once I have a lot of raw material, then I can sit down and create. One of the cool things that we've integrated into Sublime is this idea of what happens once you have all this raw material and you're actually ready to think things through, to actually do something with it, to actually already create and work on the presentation. And so you can hit this little ... here, click on create canvas. I'm going to show you what this can do. But essentially, it's going to give me a Figma Miro type whiteboarding tool of sorts, where I can start to kind of arrange things in ways that like make sense to me. So yeah, so like and I guess like one thing that I could say like so much of what we're gonna do is about like we need like what's the point of like consuming so much stuff if you're not going to create with it? And so this is a card that I had added to that collection. So one cool thing about Canvas is that I can actually start to like aggregate my ideas and like create ideas and kind of bucket them. But the other cool thing I can do is once I'm in like this think things through, grapple with these ideas state, I can, this is essentially like a Figma Miro type board, but it's connected to the Sublime network and my library. So I could say, oh, this is actually related. So let me pull this into my work. I'm not going to do a full demo of Canvas because I think it'll probably surface later in terms of how to use your knowledge for collecting stuff. But the whole point is, there's no point, like why start with a blank page when you can start with just a ton of inspiration. And I think that my goal really, if I personally, like the thing that drives me is pulling people out of passive consumption mode, because I think like the state of being in perpetual consumption mode is a little bit helpless. Creation is intimidating, but curation is this thing that stands in between consumption and creation, where if we put a little bit of extra work into preserving the things that resonate with us as we're consuming, then that naturally will become creation. Because what is creation if not finding ways of combining other people's ideas into your own? And I think that for a long time, I sort of have been grappling with the tension between plugging out and plugging in. And, I was trying to like position Sublime a little bit as the antidote to kind of attention grabbing social media. And I'm kind of over that phase because the way that I see things now is if social media, if Twitter and, Instagram and whatever, if those places are the town square or the mall or, like whatever other analogy you want to use, where there's a lot of noise, like we still need those places, as a society. But you don't go to think at the mall. You don't go to, write a book, in the middle of Times Square. But those things do serve a purpose. And so for me, so much of having an idea library is really about acknowledging that, yes, we can participate in social media. We can use that to consume. But actually, if I have my own little corner where I can take back like things that I'm plucking from those places and reflect on them, and mindfully curate them and actually, create with them, then it just ends up making my relationship, to social media healthier. So I think so much of what I've sort of come to is you need both. And I think having an idea library that is more reflective and social media that is more compulsive, like the balance is good. Um, and maybe the best way to capture and encapsulate this idea is, comes from this line, which is the last line in Voltaire's, book Candide, which basically the main character suffers unimaginable tragedy. And at the end of the day, after like everything he's, struggles with, he ends up and he says, like, one must cultivate one's own garden. And I think that, I think that there's something really powerful here about you can participate in the world, but keep a distance from it. And so much of what an idea library is that kind of distance, that intentionality, because no one, I want to pull up, this, example here that I have somewhere. And oh yeah, this. So yeah, we interviewed, Adam Mastroianni, who's an incredible Substack writer, and he said something that I just love. And he said, no one benefits from you scrolling on your phone and feeling sad and then going to Starbucks. The antidote is figuring out what you care about, what you're good at, and what you feel like doing that can make the world a little bit better. And then really do that thing. And so, yes, like like I'm sure a lot of people on this call, I've been following the unfolding story of like Luigi Mangione and like the United Healthcare stuff. And like, that's fine. That's entertainment. But like, to me, having an idea library, a thing that I actually like, I can reflect on, I can act on, I can further and deepen my intentions. Like, you just need that kind of balance in your life. I think, to have like just basic, fulfillment, and peace of mind as you use the internet. So really kind of jumping into, what is the Sublime way of building an idea library? And I think that one of the biggest ones, it really boils down to these four principles, and I'll get into, each one of them and how they really manifest for us in the software, right? Because one thing is like, this is what we believe, but this is how we actually have baked these principles into, how you can interact, with Sublime. So the first is intention over attention. And I think that if you don't have a plan, like the internet is amazing. The internet is an incredible tool, but it's also a tool that if you don't have a plan for how to use it, it will use you. And the reason for that is because the financial logic of the internet is 100% driven by, attention. If you think about 15 years ago, you'd have an intention. I want to read the paper this morning for 20 minutes before I drink my coffee and do the next thing. Like, you had that intention, and then you got the newspaper physically, read the thing, and then like moved on with your day. Now we've essentially like delegated our attention to the world's like largest advertising companies. And, I do think they've brought some positive into the world, but if you don't use them with intention, that becomes extremely, problematic. And I think, when it comes to building an idea library, you can't just collect information. I think one of the big kind of flaws and traps that people fall into is just collecting stuff. To really kind of feel creatively and intellectually alive, you need to have this like relationship with your gut and cultivate this like relationship with what is worth keeping, what is my thing, what feels like uniquely mine. And so it's interesting that we just now live in this world where the barrier is no longer information. The barrier is intention, it's self-regulation, it's courage. And so my old belief was that I'm sort of like embarrassed about how I used to like curate my idea library in the past, but I had an Airtable library and at some point like a combination of a Notion or whatever. And I would just like add a bunch of stuff and hope that by adding a bunch of tags, it would magically lead to unexpected connections. And that never happened. And I think that what has worked and the way that this kind of manifests in the software is I'm going to show you with some examples, is on Sublime, the best way to discover information is not really to kind of scroll. Like Sublime is just not a great alternative to standing in line at Starbucks or whatever for 5 minutes. But it is a great alternative when you have a clear intention. So if you, for example, if you have maybe I want to write about intentionality and like why if you don't have a plan for how to use the internet, it will use you, and the importance of intentionality when using the web. So I can create this collection. And the moment I do that, Sublime instantly surfaces related ideas. And it's sort of like, I think part of but importantly, surfaces ideas from both my library and other people's. And I think that the important thing that's happening here is that like the consumption model is inverted in the sense that I put in an idea or I manifest some desire to create something, and then I get all sorts of like ideas related to this. And actually this also works. I think somebody asked in the chat earlier about integrating into writing workflow. And so if I'm writing about, if I want to write something about the importance of like intentionality or whatever, I can select this in Google Docs. If I have the Sublime browser extension, I can hit Control R and I can see immediately related ideas that load here. So for example, the first one is from Rick Rubin's The Creative Act, which feels pretty relevant. So yeah, the point being that like once you set an intention at like Sublime can pull all sorts of like related ideas your way, whether it's in Google Docs, whether it's in like our Canvas mode, like in this case, if you want to really understand an idea, you have to grapple with it. You can't just read something, you've got to wonder, where does this apply and how does it not? Like, this is cool, like I want to bring more of this. Okay, so now it's recommended this article and I can open it and it seems pretty cool how to understand things. So the point being that it's just so different to interact with the internet when you have a thing. It could be a workshop, it could be a book, it could be a theme, anything. And it's just pulling ideas towards you. So that's this principle of shifting the internet from attention grabbing from like hijacking your attention to deepening your intention that we take pretty seriously. The next principle is really about creativity over productivity. So many of you came from the Every piece, which goes into a lot of detail on what this means exactly. I think part of what's interesting is that you all registered for a workshop on how to build a knowledge library to help further creative work. And one of the things that I've learned about creativity is that creativity is so resistant to process. It cannot be scripted. There is no framework. There is no system. Like the reality is that, I think we live in a world where now humans are worried that machines are becoming human-like. But I think we should be more worried about how machine-like we have become in our pursuit of productivity. Um, and I think in a world where ChatGPT can churn out, like endless amounts of words, quantity is its game, then our game has to be something completely different. And so I think so many tools are built for convergence, what like project management tools and things like that, where, you have a project in mind, you break it down by tasks. But for us, as we think about how to weave this principle into Sublime as a product, for us, it's really about a couple of things in terms of how this manifests in the software. The first is creativity is not linear. And so I think linear narratives, like so much of like we all feel this pressure to communicate things that are non-linear in linear ways. And an example of a collection that I have, like to me, as I build Sublime, I've created this collection publicly called Making Sublime, and it gives me something non-linear to link to. That if I wanted to take someone through what are all of the kind of tidbits, references, things, insights that have inspired Sublime in some way, shape, or form. This is the thing that I would share, and it's just like endless amounts of things that that are important that I still haven't figured out how to distill in a linear way. Someday I will, but I think that's one of the benefits is that just how much this ability to just like add a lot of like unrelated things, cards, and be able to link to them can help with self-expression for things that are not so easy to communicate linearly. The other piece is that I think like the way that we've built the Sublime is really about ideas as Lego blocks, right? So this like every card is a little block that can live in infinite many contexts, and you can jump down like all sorts of different rabbit holes, like from one card to another. And there's just something about like the lack of like rigidity and hierarchy that is more conducive to flow state. It's just cards, and those cards can live in infinite many contexts, and consequently is just more conducive to serendipity. But yeah, for us, really, like the creativity piece comes down to like really revering the space before an idea, that I think is just so important in a world where we kind of so easily jump to conclusions and instead of like sitting in the nuance. And then the next piece, I guess this is less of a process over destination. It's less of a principle. It's more of a deeply held belief in that I truly think that building a library, an idea library, whether it's on Sublime or elsewhere, I think what's important is that it be something that you can make public or share in some capacity is critical. Because in the years to come, I really think that in a world where output is so commoditized, with generative AI and stuff, I think what will matter most is the artifacts of humanity that sort of show this like proof of effort, of grappling, of pain occasionally, of like just like a human being wrestling with concepts. And I just think it's so much more powerful to see not just what you think, but how you arrive at what you think. And so much of the reason for just making Sublime a space that is multiplayer, where you can decide to share everything, make it private, make it public, is just show that evidence of like of work. And in our case, I think I'll share the example of the every piece, because a lot of people in this call um, uh, have read it. Before I even started writing the piece, I was collecting inspiration. And so some of that like never made like, saw the light of day in the piece, but there's some evidence of like, ooh, what was she thinking? What was she collecting as she kind of like went, through and created this piece. And I just think that will become so much more valuable in the years to come. And I would just, yeah, I just like would wholeheartedly recommend documenting your process, whether it's like using a tool like Sublime to collect raw material in such a way that you can share it after, or it could be like a Google Doc, whatever. But I think evidence, like artifacts of humanity, evidence of process, it's just so important and so beautiful, and I think will become so much more important in the years to come. And then finally, I think that this is probably like the thing that I hold most dear, which is, I personally think it's a huge loss that we that the metaphors for how we engage on the internet are so limited, right? That we are broadcasting on social platforms, and that's great. That is one form of communication. But I find it to be a huge loss that so many of us are grappling and thinking through ideas and collecting ideas and connecting the dots and doing that in environments that are 100% private. Like it's just impossible for me to share my Apple Notes or to do so in an environment that, is not kind of broadcasty. And so I think as a result, like as a society, like the majority of what we consume doesn't get shared. And I just find that to be so like profoundly limiting. And so I would use Sublime if I was the only one here. I still want a library where I curate stuff for myself that I need to come back to. But it's just the magic is so multiplied in community. Like the fact that I can put in a thought or idea and get inspiration, not just from my library, but from other people's, it's just infinitely more delightful. And I love the metaphor of trails to describe, I think, the spirit here, because a trail is something you create for yourself. You are taking the path, you are walking, you need the path for yourself, but it's also something that you leave behind for others. And so in terms of how that we over me mentality manifests, so this is my library. This has got everything. Like you could see Sublime Workshop is private. I've got a bunch of like, yeah, how humaning will change with AI. It's private. I'm still kind of grappling my thoughts on this. I've got a bunch of like random stuff that's private, but I can also go here, like my public library, everything that I've ever shared publicly on Sublime lives here. And of course, like the way, yeah, like every time you add something to Sublime, you can decide if it's private or public. Like I have it my defaults set here, but I always can like deselect it. So there's something really nice about the fact that I have this world that is my own. I still have like all of my private stuff that is not ready really to be kind of thought of in public. Some stuff like I don't really like, some stuff I just don't want public, some stuff I feel comfortable with. But I think that so one aspect of it is like leaving this trail. But the other aspect of it is just being able to click in to any card. This is one I added this week around like good conversation tips and immediately see other cool things that other people have added. And the cool thing is that I can see other people's stuff regardless of whether my stuff is private or public. So this idea of building an idea library in a space that feels equal parts personal and communal is sort of the thing that we're trying to nail. So that's the Sublime sort of principles. It's really about intention over attention. We are not trying to build an alternative like place to kind of doom scroll. It's really about honoring creativity and the space before an idea. It's about giving you a tool that has some sort of evidence of process, evidence of grappling and thinking through stuff. and it's a multiplayer space where there are other people, and it's a big network, it's a community. So it's not just me, it's we. So that's that. Now comes the fun part. How I build my library. I actually just want to quickly. Yeah, by the way, I have not had the chat open the whole time because I can't figure out how to do that. So I'm just quickly making sure you guys are all alive.
Chat's popping off. People are
All right.
loving what you're saying.
Okay, chat's popping off. All right, so I'm gonna go back to how I built my my library. Okay, so here's the big paradox. I think that is probably pretty relatable. We we are consuming stuff all the time. I think, like the average person spending like 6 hours a day consuming information in some capacity. And we're finding sparks, things that move us. Like, if Marie Kondo's like, does this spark joy? Like, I think it, like, for me, it's like, if this sparks joy, like, I want to save it. And oftentimes, like, we don't know how those things that move us will be useful later. And that is like, that is like a truth. But it's also true that without an intention, without having like some kind of purpose, if we just collect a bunch of stuff, it like our archives will become digital graveyards. And I found this morning, so I added this thing last minute, but it's so true. She's afraid of losing ideas, so that she screenshots and bookmarks everything. But now those archives feel overwhelming, so she never looks at them. And so it's truly a paradox because you don't want to lose this stuff. Um, but you can't just like collect stuff. And so I think that the way that I have sort of grappled with this is avoiding the binary thinking of like basically acknowledging that we as humans operate in two modes, right? Like one mode is what I call foraging, right? It's like we are kind of scouting, searching widely for like food, for things that spark our interest, and we don't really know in what ways they can be useful, but if we find something on that like foraging journey, we want to bring it back. And then the other mode is like a hunting mode where you have a clear idea in mind. You have a clear concept. You have you want to write a book, you want to create a presentation, you want to start a podcast, like something that you want to manifest, something that is more intentional. It could be a belief, like, I don't know, like you think open source AI is going to like win over closed source AI. Like that's just a thing that you're just like searching for evidence and raw material to help you kind of figure out like and find like evidence to back up that thinking or whatever. And I think that we need to acknowledge that as humans, we naturally operate in both modes and that both modes are okay. And that we need to like foraging to find and discover what questions are worth asking. And then we need to hunt to find answers because without the hunting, our archives will become digital graveyards. Um,
Should.
but I think that one of the like incredible things about hunting mode is that once you set an intention, you'll start to see that thing everywhere. What is like that quote from uh he just like articulated this so well. I think it's in my library. Um, yeah, yes. So this, yes, exactly. Okay, so when I have a piece of writing in mind, and to me, it's like when I have a collection or a bucket, an intention in mind, what I have, in fact, is a mental bucket, an attractor for and generator of thought. It's like a thematic gravity well, a magnet for what would otherwise be a mess of iron filings. I'll read books differently and listen differently in conversations. In particular, I'll remember everything better. Everything will mean more to me. That's because everything I perceive will unconsciously engage on its way in with the substance of my preoccupation. A preoccupation in that sense is a hell of a useful thing for a mind. I just think that so eloquently captures why you need hunting mode, you need intentions, you need buckets that are like attractors of thought. And maybe to illustrate this with an example, when I think about foraging and maybe like what is an example of something that I added to my library, because these are all the cards that I've recently added to my library. Down here, you can see the collections that I added them to. Let's see if I can find one where I didn't add a collection. I'm pretty good at adding to collections. Okay, here, this one. Okay, so I saw this somewhere online. What is the most important problem in the world right now? And I think the president of Stanford answered, there's no answer to that question. And I just loved that for some reason. Like, I love that, like, that I typically people will answer with one problem. And I just thought this was worth keeping. I have no idea how I'm going to use this. I think that it's nice to be able to add it here later. It's added here to find it later. It's also nice. Let me try this live. It might not work, but I think it will. It's nice that I can find this again later. I think maybe, yeah, like I could say like, there is not one challenge in the world. Like maybe Stanford guy saying there's not. I'm just trying to show you how without necessarily tagging stuff, here you go. By the way, I had to turn on smart. That's just a function of our system now, but I basically, without having to tag this, I trust that the semantic search, that AI powered search, I could just say Stanford guy saying there's not one challenge in the world. Notice that I didn't use the word problem. I used like different things, but it still found this. And so I think the point I'm trying to make here is that there's no point in just like taking this card and like fear tagging it by saying like, I don't know, like Stanford, like higher education, like, I don't know, like, let me, whatever, let me try this live with you guys and get kind of fun here. If I were to go into Claude and say, if I were to add this to my knowledge management system, what tags would you add to it? Like, my guess is that a lot of these are so irrelevant. Like, there's just not a context. Like, I don't think I'll want to, like, this to me is not very useful to have 100 tags. What is useful is like, being able to find that thing again later. And also, if that thing that I just discovered, like to me, an important context where I might want to use this would be something like the world is nuanced, or the perils of binary thinking, or like something that requires some sort of creative leap between the thing that I'm seeing and how, in what context I will want to see it again. I actually think I may have a collection around life is full of ambiguities. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, so the point being that it's okay if I saw this thing and it spoke to me and I don't know how I'll use it. I trust that the semantic search will help me find it. That said, if I have a bucket for something that I'm wrestling with, then it's nice but these buckets have like they represent a creative leap. It's not just a tag, and we'll get into this a little bit more. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. But yeah, so I said I was getting ahead of myself. So this is the thing that I was trying to get to. So in my sort of journey of taking stuff I see online, saving it, using it, and building a knowledge library, like reading, like building a second brain, that kind of stuff. Like, I think that before I used to think about knowledge management as a chore. And like the purpose, like knowledge management, like there's a certain like stiffness, really, like coldness in this world, in this word. And for me, so much of like the mindset shift is it's about self-discovery. So if I think about a collection like Making Sublime or Unexplainable, like that to me is like I'm getting to know myself in some way, and there's all sorts of other benefits around, like in self-expression and helping like grasp the nonlinear so I can eventually make it linear. But it's also a future self-assistance system. Like in the case of this kind of Stanford example, like there's no point in fear tagging. Like semantic search AI is here. It's amazing. What that can't do is like figure out what personal contexts are so relevant and interesting to you. And so this is like really to me, like we're gonna get into a lot of like different examples of how I use my library, but if I had to leave you with one thing, it's this. Fear, like if you do any fear, like fear tagging to me is about organizing by topic. Answering, it's like your organization answering the question, what topic is this about? And the way that I would approach building an idea library is really thinking about in what context will I want to revisit this? Or really like who will I be when I need this? And I'm gonna get into a lot of examples. One fun clip that I'm gonna play for you guys to try to like just hammer this idea as deep as possible. I hope you can hear the audio, but listen to this.
When will I see you again?
When will I see you again?
So when will I see you again?
When will I see you again?
When will I see you again?
When can I see you again?
Well,
When can I see you again?
So when can I see you again?
When will I see you again?
When can I see you again?
Hey, listen, when can I see you again?
See you again.
When will I see you again?
soon.
Okay, I just want to make sure like the audio played, right?
Yeah, it did.
Okay, cool. So when will I see you again? That feels like a perfect encapsulation of the mindset shift here because tags are this like clinical way to classify and control. That is the mindset. It's like classification, control. It's like this fear of I will never find this thing again. So let's give it as many tags as possible. Whereas this mindset of like, when will I see you again? It's really about like creativity doesn't work in sterile containers. It works in containers that are a lot more alive and personal. And it just like, I think this line just like recognizes that there's like a time and a place that, you know, where you'll want to stumble upon something again. And maybe that still feels a little bit abstract, but what I'm going to do is spend the rest of like this kind of section around how I organize my library, showing you examples of what are the context that I've created for myself personally. Two things that I want to say before that is one is there's no right or wrong way to do this. I think what I'm about to share is what's worked for me. The other thing is that I'm going to share with you this like, I don't know if I'd call it a mental model, but it's the mental model that I thought might make this like most intuitive. But what's interesting is that for me, this was never about creating a mental model and then organizing to fit that framework. It was more about, before I was running this workshop, I sort of reflected on like, why is it that my library is so useful? What is it about how I organize it that makes it so useful for me? And then kind of working backwards and figuring out like, what is like maybe a mental model that others might like be able to grasp and model. But it's very interesting because I didn't really follow, like, it's not like I have this like framework brain. I do have this question, like, when will I want to see this thing again? Like, that is the thing that I always ask myself that is extremely useful. But these other contexts, it's not like they're like, I'm thinking about this stuff. It's a very like subconscious process. So zooming in on contexts. So the first kind of context is there are many scenarios in my life where I need, like, on a consistent ongoing basis, I need like references and like inspiration. So like for example, and I'll share some examples live. So for me, I have phrases. Okay, so phrases. So I have a collection called phrases. Every time I'm writing something, like an essay or whatever for my newsletter, and I'm at block, I go to my phrases collection and it unblocks me. It's like, this is where I collect really cool phrases that, I mean, some of them it's a private collection because I think some of them are like not universally good, but like they were good to me for some reason. And so it's like, when I'm stuck, I go here. So it's like an evergreen. I need this now. I'm creatively stuck with writing. I'll show you what that collection looks like in a second. Then there's like Sublime emails. So I send a lot of emails, like product update emails, like whatever, funnel emails, welcome emails, whatever. I need to collect inspiration for that stuff. So it's like very practical. And then I have this like ways to say no collection, which it's probably a relic of my VC days where I used to say no a lot. Now I actually have to beg people to say yes to me, but I'll still show that collection. So let me see. I think maybe all three of these might be private, but let's see. So I have this phrases collection. Yeah. So like, right, like, so yeah, I loved this. Like, I feel thin, sort of stretched, like butter scraped over too much bread. That's just beautiful. Like when I am creatively stuck, I want to read stuff like this. So I keep coming back to that. Okay, the other one was Sublime emails. Yeah, so like this is, yeah, just like, yeah, like here's like, I don't even know what this is, but I signed up for this thing the other day. And the second I signed up, I got this email saying like, this is a group chat with you and the CEO for if you need anything. Like, I thought that was cool. It's not like I'm going to stop everything I'm doing and like mimic this and change Sublime emails. Like that is just not a priority for me right now, but it's interesting and provocative enough that I wanted to add this to my Sublime email collections. And the day that I'm actually working on emails in some way or another, this is a kind of like inspiration that I'd want to like come back to. So that's another example. And then let's see what's in my how to say no collection. Yeah. So how to say no. Yes, I think I probably added this a while ago. Oh, this is public, actually. This is not a private collection. Oh, this is so nice. Yeah, a friend asked a busy guy to lead a project, and instead of saying yes or rejecting it, busy guy said, I can't commit to that, but I can commit to thinking about it. And if I come up with something I'm excited about, I'll do it. I just love that. So I added it to this collection. I'm curious if that's in any other collection. Yeah. Yeah, so it's interesting. So here, this is an interesting example of this collection was added by many people. This card was added by many people. Alexi added it to Consulting Life. Lyle added it to her quote basket. Shashank added it to Let's Communicate Better. Yeah, so this is cool. So yeah, so I guess like to come back to this thing, the kind of like these collections for me are like collections where I am in situations that collections that is effectively like represent situations where I wished I had the right references and inspiration. And so, if I was like a designer, I'd want to have like incredible UX examples if I was like a UX designer. If I'm like an investor or whatever, I'd want to have like all my investing frameworks in one place. Like it's very different depending on your context, but the point being like, I think the question is like, what is a context that you're often in where you constantly like wish you had the right references and inspiration in front of you? So that's like the more evergreen stuff because it's like ongoing stuff. Like I will always want phrases. I will always have some sort of like writing practice in my life where I'm creatively stuck. The next is more like strategic around like projects, right? So if you know that you're going to tackle a project in the next like few months, the best thing you could do today is start a collection and start collecting raw material for it. So the every essay that I wrote, that was a great example that I think I showed earlier. But here's like two. So landing page info and great mission statement. So I want to redo Sublime's landing page. And I also want to like figure out what's a great like mission statement for us. That's not a priority right now, but I'm still collecting inspiration for it. So here, this is also open. Like I have like a bunch of cool examples of landing pages that I like that are here. And then, yeah, great company mission statements. Like whenever I'm ready to work on my own mission statement, I just want to, yeah, I just want to have access to this stuff. Yeah, like Figma's founding vision to eliminate the gap between imagination and reality. Like I just want to have all of this inspiration. So these to me represent like future projects that I want to work on. And by the way, some of them, one interesting thing that's been useful is some of these are like, I'm like manifesting. So I have a collection called I'm going to get good at video. I suck at video. I like my flavor of like sharing ideas is like long form Substack stuff. But like at some point, 2025, maybe later, I want to get good at video. And so I'm just collecting like either people that are good at video or examples of like good video, whatever, random stuff. But it's like the moment that I have a container for that in some weird subconscious way, it helps me like bring that thing to life. Like I think that just that intentionality is just such a missing piece of making the tool work for you instead of you work for the tool. The other piece, and I would actually say this third one, planting seeds, is what I think most people use Sublime for, which is a more intellectual kind of exercise around like growing your thinking. So if I think about like I had like some vague sense that there was something about creativity over productivity as a mindset. And I didn't quite know how to articulate it, but I had a collection where I was collecting all sorts of things related to that, that helped me kind of grow my thinking around it. And sometimes like the names of these collections evolve, but it's like sometimes it's like a theme, a belief, a broad idea. The latest one is complaining is boring, which I recently created. But yeah, I just want to at some point like expand on this idea that 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 like I'm done complaining about like what sucks about the internet. Let me like it's not, it doesn't have to be like binary, you know, it's like this is bad and this is good. It's like no, they serve different purposes. Like I don't even know. Like I have to work on this more. But I love that I now have this container to kind of like I've planted this seed and now I can develop it further. So and like oftentimes like I have this example here, early days. So this other early days thing, like I'm obsessed with how like but with like the early days of ambitious endeavors, right? Like this is like YouTube's first website, or yeah, like in 2009 people like worried that YouTube wasn't going to make money, or you know, like Sony was founded with a rice cooker. Like it's like a lot of like random stuff about like this was Apple's website in 1999. And like at some point when I have more bandwidth in my life, I would love to maybe write a book about this, let's start a podcast, whatever. Like for now, I'm just planting seeds. I'm just curating this stuff. Oh, this was so good. Just got an iPod Touch 4G for my birthday. What are some great apps to make use of this camera? Instagram is a new social camera app released just days or so ago. It has some nice filters and the social aspect could be good, although I have no friends. It's just fine that like that was 12 years ago. And there's just so much interestingness in like having all this stuff ready. And at some point I hope it becomes a project. But to me, these are just like planting seeds and growing my thinking. And I think importantly, I shared this earlier, but maybe I haven't done enough justice to it. Which is like I really think that um, the Canvas tool that we have is the best way to go from like, all right, here's all of this inspiration. Now let me kind of like work with it, you know? And so this is typically my process. I collect ideas, I start to connect them, and then I start to kind of like map them here. And then yeah, and then like I said earlier, like the coolest thing is like if I want more of this, I can get more of this from the network. Like that this just follows you everywhere. This idea of like related cards and related ideas. And then the last kind of collection type, because I was basically I mentioned I kind of came like looked at my collections and I tried to come up with like what are like why did I create them, what like, and this kind of like way of thinking about them made sense. But there's a bucket that is like just for fun. Like we just as humans like have a compulsion to collect and archive, and like things move us. And there's so many examples of I think of people using Sublime today in ways that are just so fun. There's somebody has a collection on wholesome YouTube comments, and it's so beautiful and delightful. And I think similarly, there's just a few of those kinds of collections in my bucket, like I have a kindness log, which is amazing. I wholeheartedly recommend people have a kindness log, which is basically anytime somebody says something kind about me or my work or something, I add it to my, I don't think that collection's pinned. Yeah, so like I just like added here and it's just so nice to come back to this. And like, yeah, I mean, this is like the first thing I added. It's like you rarely remember the compliments, you remember the criticism. So like just for fun, just to remind yourself of like that you matter, just like have a kindness log. I think similarly in that kind of like bucket for me is yeah, I also like highly recommend this one. I have my canon. So this is like what I consider to be the core syllabus of my life. Like the stuff that I've read that has most shaped my thinking. I love having it for myself. I love that I can share it with others. I love that this is like a gift that I can give others. Like, I don't know, it transcends explanation. It's fun, it's delightful. I want to have this for myself. I want to have this for other people as well. So that I think covers like most of the what's in my library. I mean, we left some space for Q&A at the end because I'm sure people will have like questions and I'm happy to get into them. But yeah, I feel like it might be better to do the workshop stuff and then turn it over for Q&A after. Let me open up the chat again. Because if that feels like that's the vibe of the room, then I can turn it over to Alex, who's gonna run the workshop piece of this, the interactive piece of this.
Let's do it. Cool. Well, that was awesome, Sadi. Let's all applaud with audio or emojis. That was incredible. Look at everybody clapping in the video. Actually, very cool.
I like literally have no idea if any of this resonated. This is like online is so weird.
I think it did from what I was been seeing in the chat. So now I think is the getting your hands dirty and actually doing the work of making these collections and seeing what cards and what things you on Sublime that you might want to add into these collections. And so we're going to kind of walk you through that. I'm going to walk you through kind of how to get started on Sublime if you don't know how to do that yet. And then we're going to make some collections using some of the categories that Sadi shared. And then we'll just kind of play around in Sublime with those collections already created and see what stuff you want to add into various collections. So let me share my screen here and we can start. So, and I'm going to play some chill music quietly while we do it too. So to get started, we would love for you guys to just create an account on Sublime. So if you don't have one already, you can do that by just going to sublime.app/join and going through the onboarding process. As part of that onboarding process, you'll get a note about music for airports. Yes, Alex with the vibes. That's me. That was like originally my title was head of vibes, but then it just got too weird to say that. I didn't want to be that guy, you know. And so, anyways, the browser extension, you'll see this in the onboarding for Chrome, Safari, Firefox. The browser extension is my favorite part of Sublime. Like, that is the easiest way to grab stuff when you're anywhere on the internet. You can highlight text and then immediately add it to Sublime. You can save websites, articles, videos, images, all of it. So I'm going to just give everybody a couple minutes to do that and kind of just get situated. And if you don't mind, just pop it in the chat once you've done it, or if you already have Sublime and you're ready to go, let me know that too, just so that I can kind of gauge when we're ready to move on in a couple minutes. Sublime does not work from my location. I can't tell why. I use from Nigeria. All right, I'm seeing, I think Gabe will look into that. Seeing a lot of readies. Lori suggesting a VPN. Registered. Nice. Very cool. My dog Robert is here. He wanted to add an account. There. Ready. Done. Ready. RIP my OneNote and Evernote. I have Sublime, but I'm traveling and using the app. Can I still follow? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely you can. So long, Evernote. Wow, I didn't know this would become a RIP Evernote party, but you know, when in Rome. All right. That sounds good. I feel like we're mostly there. So let's jump to the next section. So I want you guys to think about what an evergreen situation or role or anything that you are constantly wishing you had the right references and inspiration for, and then create a collection in Sublime for that. So I'll share some, and as you do, please drop them in the chat, because I think we're going to learn the most from like hearing how other people are doing it. Some examples of these are, Sadi was sharing like phrases that she really likes. So, or ways to say no. So it's like anytime she's in that situation where she's going to need to say no, she has that collection ready. Love notes is another one. Content ideas for short form videos. Nice. I love that. I don't know, Sadi, if you have other ideas. Artful communication, courses, knowledge bases, contract negotiations. What are people angry about? I love that. Emotional regulation. Yeah, for me, a lot of them are like about like when I'm feeling a certain emotion, usually anxiety, like to go to that collection and like kind of, read whatever's there and help me kind of get settled. Career ending typos. That's really good. E-com email swipe files. Love that. Reaction memes, travel. I don't know if Sadi shared the got one, but that's a really good one that is just basically like a collection of times where you got, meaning like where like an email sold you on clicking, or some pitch made you buy a thing. Like keeping a log of those is a really cool idea. Creative work, to be able to create a board per project, a blend of Arena and Notion, my collections, tenets to live by, words strung together perfectly, on-spectrum options for parents of on-spectrum kids. I love that. Emotional intelligence, NLP, handling grief. That's a really good one. Reaction memes. Yeah, these are amazing. Product features. That's awesome. So I feel like you guys are getting that one. So let's jump to the next one. And if you have questions or if you're like struggling with how to do this, also drop that in the chat so we can help you guys out, because this is a new, different way of thinking. But it's the doing this work makes the experience of kind of navigating the internet and Sublime a lot more fun, because you have these buckets to put stuff into. So let's jump to the next one, projects. So this one's a little bit more straightforward. So, oh wait, you said, yeah, feeling stuck, not sure what's a burning topic for me right now. I mean, I would say, I don't know, Sadi, if you have thoughts on that, but for me, it's like any like emotion, high emotion areas of life are where I often need support, whether that be quotes, images, ideas. So like places where you feel like you might need ideas, or if you're an artist or creative of any type, collecting examples of what you find to be really great work is another good one. Or like inspiration if you're just starting out as a certain kind of artist, and you need to know like, yeah, it's going to take a while for you to get good at this. I don't know, Sadi, if you have any other.
It's interesting that I definitely think there's some practical stuff. Like if you think about what roles you play, if you're like manager, like one-on-one conversation starters, like that might be a very practical context. But there's also the emotional context. I didn't show this one, but one of the collections that I love is like, it's called Things to Come Back to When I'm Feeling Meh. And I think that like, if for certain like emotions, like it's nice to have like different collections. I also I have a collection called Founder's Mentality that I love. I absolutely love. So if any of you builders out there want to like feel seen and understood as a builder founder, that's like one that I revisit and I just love to curate for myself and others. So I think, yeah, I think some of it is like emotional, some of it is practical, like just thinking about what roles you play in your life and what are contexts in those roles that you possibly.
So yeah, I Macaulay, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but you were asking how to make the actual collection, so you can do that from the plus or from the collection plus over here. Sounds like you might still just be in the onboarding though, so you have to finish that, I think. Yeah. Are these different types of collections? So these are all just collections. This is more of just like framing for how to think about collections. By some miracle, it works from Nigeria, and I'm diving deep. Incredible. Okay, so the next kind of collection is projects. So this is like something you're working on right now, you know, that is due next week. It could be something that you want to do in the next few months. It could be like write a book, you know, and you don't have to know anything more than that. But just having that collection so that when you're looking around the internet and you see something that inspires you about writing a book, now you have a place to put that. It can be like Sari was saying, you know, get good at video. It can be anything you want, really. And it can and it's not just creative projects, you know, it can be like grow my Substack, which is something I'm always thinking about. You know, or like become better at handling criticism, which is also something I need to get better at. Interesting questions to ask people while traveling. That's a great one. Good first date questions. These are great. These might be a challenge with focus, but how do you handle being in forage versus hunting mode? How does Sublime help with this? Nerdy shit for nerdy people. That's great. And as Sadi said, like, there's so much overlap, right? Like an evergreen thing can become a project. A project could end up being something that you always want to reference. It's not, there's no like, binary kind of thinking. It's all very gooey and fluid. This is just kind of to help jumpstart your brain into creating these buckets for yourself. And I would also say that a lot of the creating of collections happens as you're adding cards. So it doesn't all need to be happening right now. This is just kind of to get us started. So yeah, I'm curious if people have project ones that they want to share, or if people are having issues with this one. Otherwise, we'll keep moving. Start my newsletter. Love that. What's the best workflow for saving podcast snippets? Wow. That's the $1 million question right there. Sadi, do you want to talk about that, or do you want?
That's an amazing question. We haven't shared this publicly, but we have been working on what I think is going to be the best way to capture insights from podcasts. We'll probably have a version of this to share in the next month or so. So I won't say much more beyond that, but I will say that I think we've solved the problem of capturing insights from podcasts, making them searchable, and easily adding them to Sublime.
Gonna be pretty sick.
It will be pretty sick.
I love that. We didn't even set that up, that question. That just happened. Cool. So some people are saying personal statement for law school application. You should partner with podcast notes. Can you upload your own docs to use? Yes, absolutely. You can upload PDFs, images, movies. Let me just kind of show where you would do that. So here on where the plus sign, you just hit upload, and then you can upload whatever you would like. So not in front of desk, but need to archive notes from the podcast I listened to when on the move. Cool. All right, I think we can move on. Organization relocation, support for moving my HE organization to a new home. I was late. What are some of the fascinating and most unusual use cases you've seen? That's a good question. Use cases, I mean, there's like, you know, the big creative projects, the books, I mean, this is one I did. and it didn't last very long, but I made a collection to log the workouts that I was doing, and I made it public so that and then a bunch of people joined it too, so that they could see. And then they started putting in their workouts, which was just like not at all what Sublime is made for, but it was fun. I don't know if you, Sadi or Gabe, if you guys have.
Actually, yeah, some of the interesting use cases for me, there was somebody who's writing a book and took a break from the Substack because he was just like heads down in like book writing mode. And he just used Sublime to share a lot of the kind of research and snippets, et cetera, that he was reading for the book. And it was just a nice way to kind of add value to his readers while he was in a bit of a break. So I just love this idea that, like, I don't know, there's just so much pressure if you're a creator to publish stuff. And like, we're always doing stuff, even if we haven't published it. But I think that using Sublime as a way to like say, hey, there's some evidence of thinking here, even though like the published date is like, miles away. So I've seen some of those use cases that I think are great. There's also, I love the Michael Dean example, Al, if you want to.
Oh yeah, that's an amazing one. Good call. So Michael Dean is this amazing writer. He was the head of editing for Rite of Passage. We interviewed him, and that's going to be up soon. But so he found this this journal of F. Scott Fitzgerald's. So it's actually the top one here. And yeah, he wrote. I didn't realize until yesterday there are only 8 essays, and 75% of his work are logs that were too weird or random to make it into his published work. And so Michael Dean has like been doing logs, which is just like logging ideas into categories. And so these are the like letter by letter categories that F. Scott Fitzgerald used, including like F is feelings and emotions without girls. G is descriptions of girls. And so Michael went ahead and just made collections for each letter for him. So he's got like E is essay architecture. That's a book he's writing. F, feed, facts, finds, governance. So it's a really cool, weird framing for him that I think is serving him really well. And is just like very cool and funny and weird.
Somebody asked whether we integrate with other AI tools. And I think actually I want to say something about this here, which is I think curation is going to become like the definitive skill, and bringing the context of what you've curated into AI tools is great. Like right now we're working on this for Sublime. We haven't shipped it, but I do often find myself curating something on Sublime and then wanting to be like, all right, here's like the context. Like I want to interact with this context. I want to create something that fits this vibe, but the kind of pre-existing curated body of work being the key thing. So we are working on what we call a smart copy. Because right now, I mean, there are some like manual ways of like copy pasting stuff from Sublime into whatever, Google Docs, GPT, whatever. But yeah, we really think that source grounded AI is so important. Like AI grounded in your personal context, and we plan to support that.
Cool. So let's move on to the third. We're almost done with these, and then we're just gonna go nuts inside of Sublime. But planting seeds is sort of the broadest one, and also the kind of what I think most people use Sublime for. And so this is really like anything that feels like a question, theme, belief you've been wrestling with, or that you want to develop. I often make these collections as I'm kind of going around the internet, and like I'll see a phrase that will make me think like, oh, I might want to explore this further, like all that we cannot know. And then I put hypothesis, the future will be that which cannot be proven. Like that's an idea. It isn't an essay for me yet, but it's something I want to keep developing. And yeah, I have kind of a lot of these, like Discordianism, which I'm into, plants and agriculture, websites that inspire me. Just like Alex DeBranco is a writer, love notes. Why thinking visually helps me get stuff done. These are just like ideas. And I see there's a question, what if you end up with too many collections? Is that a problem? Do we need to be conscious of it? I'll let Sadi answer too, but I feel like it's up to you and your style. Like I have a lot of collections, and I think a lot of people do, and then I think others are a lot more like curated and keep it more organized, like Sadi. So I'm curious how you would answer that, Sadi.
Yeah, I mean, I don't worry about that in the least bit. I think that the way I think about it is I like to me, keeping my library organized and having few collections is basically about like me maintaining the system for the sake of the system without like really a clear return. Like, what is the return of deleting some collections? Like to me, like I only work, I use Sublime as like I'm like working inside of Sublime. Like when I don't go in like once a week, and this is personal. Like some people might do this in Sublime, but I don't go in and try to update my collections and update my cards. Like sometimes as I'm browsing for something, if I see something that no longer is relevant, I'll remove it. But I just feel like so much of productivity is like it's just busy work, but it's not going to take you anywhere. Like removing collections and deleting collections, just like I don't know. I also think that the way we've designed it, where like pinned collections are like this, your top of mind stuff is always like super visible, and the rest is just it's just a search away. So it doesn't bother me. I probably have like 500 collections, and I don't feel bothered. But it's very personal.
Alex, I see that many of your collections have one card. Curious if you feel like when you clip something, like you have an accurate, full mental idea of everywhere it might go. I mean, not everywhere, but I definitely I lean way into adding it to as many collections as possible. You know, just because like I don't know what context exactly I'll need them in, but I know if I don't make those contexts, I won't be able to find them later. You know, so I just lean way into like if I'm, you know, reading on Substack or something, and you know, like yeah, like this is Adam Mastriani, and like he was the guy that said the thing about like not being sad, you know, and like let's see, like if this is about like the end of the world not coming. So I would hit this. This is how the extension works. So I can just show you guys that too. You know, and I might add a note, and then here I just add it to as many collections as it makes sense. You know, like all that we cannot know. So this is like that all that we cannot know one. Maybe I'd do one about aliens are real, maybe. And this is where I would like create a new one, and create a new collection right here. And then maybe I do like apocalypse. I feel like I have, no, I don't have any on that. So then I'd make one on that. Is the apocalypse here, and it's just low key. That's an actual idea that I've been wondering about. And so I'd create that collection, and yeah, and then just hit add to my library. And now in my library, it's going to live in all of those collections. So if we go to that card, we see it lives in all of these. And there's no cost to it being in multiple places, you know, because then like a year later, when I type in something again about, you know, like the world not ending or all that we cannot know, that these collections are going to pop up again. And I'm going to be kind of developing them as I'm going. So you ask, is it suggesting collections? So right now it has the most recent ones, I believe. Sadi and Gabe can.
Somebody just asked Al about whether you can add existing cards to additional collections, and you can. We have to make this more intuitive in the UI, but I want you to show John how you do that, because it's such an important part of the system is the fact that collections can live in many different contexts.
Yeah, totally. So like this is from Camus, you know, you like this card, you can just hit the check mark here for update and then add to any other collections that you want. And so I could add that to all that we cannot know. I could then add it to, you know, however many you want. That's always possible. And that's always something that you can be doing and evolving, right? Because you might not know exactly what collections a card is going to be in at the beginning, and you shouldn't, you know. How do you make visible the sidebar? This may have been covered, but can a collection contain other collections? So I forget, what is the latest on that? The collection and other collections?
Yeah, we have to find an elegant way to do it. Yeah, we're thinking about it. It's just a matter of doing it elegantly.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. So we're almost done. There's one more kind of collection left here, which is just for fun. So we can kind of cruise through this one, but this is like, you know, just stuff that you want to collect. This can be words that you like, or songs that you love, or I have a few collections like songs and playlists that I like to listen to while I'm working. You know, that's fun. That could also be evergreen. Again, there's so much overlap with these. So I think we can kind of just cruise by that one and move into the final stage of this, which is, yeah, filling those buckets. So basically, now you have some collections that you've created, and we want you to just kind of roam around Sublime and start looking at cards and adding them to your collections that you've created, and or creating new collections. So I'll show you guys kind of how to do that. But just a few ways that I want to highlight is browsing the staff picks. You can add anything from anywhere on the web using the extension. Or you can just open the collection and browse the related cards right away. And or using search, which just make sure to turn on smart search. So I'm just going to kind of like walk through each of these. To start with, if you're here, you click on the Sublime logo down here, you can look through the staff picks. And if any of these feel like, oh, these are cool, and you want to add them to your collection, you just hit the add button here, add to collections, and then add it right there. Importantly, you don't need to add a card to a collection. So you can just hit add and add this to your library, and that will just be in your library without an actual collection. It doesn't need to have one at all. So in terms of highlighting from anywhere on the web, I kind of showed that already, but I'll just show it again, where you just highlight text. If you have the extension, this little Sublime icon pops up, and you click that, and then you've got this modal over here where you add it to whatever collections that you want. And it makes some cool noises. You can also right click just on the page and hit add to Sublime, and that will add the entire article or website, whatever that might be. And then with images, you can right click on the image and hit add to Sublime, and that will save the image itself. And so if like, you guys have probably made a lot of new collections that don't have anything in them. And so I'll just make a new one here. I'll make a new one of like, are good. You know, and you hit create, like that's an idea I want to explore. I haven't added anything into this yet, but I already have access to all of these related ideas from Sublime. And, you know, I would just look through these, and if any of them feel great, add them to the collection. So you can just hit the plus sign here, add to collections. Things are good, actually. And you add it. And the more stuff that you add, the better the related cards will get. And that's actually an important thing, too, about like the collection name is when you create the collection, being specific about it and adding a description is going to help make those related cards a lot better. And so you can do that and look through here and just start adding cards. And then finally, you can use the search. So making sure that you're here in the Sublime tab, you can just ask like, is there any evidence that things are good, actually? So I hit that. Make sure to turn on the smart search that uses the semantic AI embeddings. And yeah, now I've just got all these cards here from the Sublime library that I can add to this collection or add to my library. I can just hit that and go put it into things are good actually. You can also like, this is when you start to chase rabbit holes, you know, and like you see this card and it says that it's from Soul Boom, Why We Need a Spiritual Revolution. I could click on that. This is a book. And now I have all the highlights that have been saved in Sublime from that book. And so I can, you know, grab like a random highlight like this and then add that to my collection. So, and or create a new collection. So you can always be adding, creating, building as you go. Yeah, I think
Al, if you want to share Canvas a little bit more, because I think in the chat, people were a little overwhelmed. Maybe my demo was a little bit.
Yeah, let's talk about Canvas. So let's we can just go here to my library and you have Canvas here. You just hit the plus sign to make a new one. And you can start with a collection. So this means you can start your canvas with cards that you've collected. So let's just use the Things Are Good Actually one where we've got a few cards in there already. So I'll hit create, and now we're gonna make this canvas, and that's gonna have those few cards in it already, right? It's not a ton, but you know, it's a start, and you can add a lot more cards, which I'll do in a minute, but you can also like really mind map and use this thing like Figma where, you know, I can use an arrow and connect cards. I can, you know, just like draw like, okay, this is going to be the beginning of my essay, right? So I'll put like intro to essay, and you can mess around with the colors here. I can make this purple. I can, you know, you can make it bigger. Like this is fully yours to play with. And then it has the added amazing feature of like having all of your cards in there and all of Sublime's cards. So what I can do is say I like this card a lot and I want more like this. I can just hit the related icon here. And now we've got related cards from Sublime that are going to be about this topic. And if I like them, I can bring them in here. I can be like, okay, this is going to be kind of like the next point of my essay that I'm going to work on after. I can also filter here, which is really nice, where you can do like, let's say you just want some images. So you can just turn on images, filter, and now we're going to just have images here, where a lot of these are text, but you know, they're also like charts like this and, you know, other things that you might want to literally use in an essay if that's what you're doing. And then the final thing, which is like related, is using the search. So, you know, if I'm writing this essay and I want to close it with something about mental health, and how, you know, mental health is better than, or something, I don't know. And just making sure to turn on the smart search that makes the searches better. So this is only from my library, which is nice because, you know, like this is a book I read a year ago, Night Vision, and I loved it. I don't remember making this highlight, but it's perfect for this essay, right? And being able to grab stuff from the stuff that you've already highlighted and collected is really powerful. And you can then just switch to Sublime here and look through everybody's highlights and collections. So, like, turn on the smart search there, and yeah, we can see what other people have been saving. And what's really nice too is like you can search through collections here. So these are just in my library, but I think you can do it with all of Sublime too. Maybe you can only do that right now with your own. Oh yeah, it like goes back to my own. So I'll just keep it with Sublime and yeah. Oh yeah, it switches, so it's weird. So that's just like a little bug, but you can do all the same kind of filters there too, where you can filter by type, and you can also use this shuffle button, which is awesome. We haven't really talked about that, but using the shuffle button generally in Sublime is one of my favorite things. So like shuffling related card or staff picks, You can shuffle things when you search for something and just kind of start, looking through random cards, adding them to collections, building your knowledge library. I haven't been watching the chat, so I don't know if people have questions or anything. Thank you for which clack switch is this, Alex? I like it. That is Japanese black. You caught me. So I think, Alex, can you mute your keyboard? Sorry. Oh my God. My bad. Let me turn clack off. Yeah, so that's like a thing that makes my keys be loud. Sorry about that. Amazing. Cool. I mean, do you guys have other questions? Are Canvas publishable, shareable? Yes. So let me go back to the Canvas here. So each Canvas you can export as a PNG. And so
we'll have proper sharing soon, like proper link sharing.
Okay, cool. And yeah, you can share it as a link soon. Yeah, other questions, thoughts? I'd like a recording. Yeah, we'll definitely have a recording of this. Can you talk about the mentoring community thing? I'm keen. Yes. Sadi, do you want to talk about that?
We'll send an email about that. About that one. I think a lot of people here don't have content.
Yeah, we'll email you after. I'll make a note of that. Collections are public by default, but Canvas is private by default. Getting lots of access denied when attempting to view a collection. Does that mean the collection is private? Yeah, I think so. I'll let Sadi and Gabe. Great.
Yeah, because collections, essentially you have a public library that is like mine lives on sublime.app/Sari, and the public library has my public cards, my public collections, but it doesn't have public canvases. So Canvas is like a new feature that we prototypes, and we actually it was a prototype, we just added it into the product this week. So it'll evolve. But yeah, for now, you've got that. Canvases are default, just private, and you can see them, and the collections you have to.
So somebody asked about adding text and then being able to edit it later. So yeah, Gary, this is how you do that. I'll just, let me start again. So when you hit the plus sign, you hit right. You've got this really clean Zen way of adding. This is me adding a card. You can then add it right to a collection. You can favorite it. You can mark it private or not. Say I wanted this to be favorite. I could favorite it. I hit save, and then I have this here, and I can just hit edit and edit that text. So and this is what's cool here is it's you can format things nicely, right? So I can make it bold, italics, strike through. You can link things, so it's smart. You can do quotes. There's a lot of kind of fun ways to like edit the text as well. Sorry if I missed this. When searching for related, what are the data sources? Is it coming from the overall internet? No, so it's coming from Sublime and everything that other people have collected within the Sublime community. So when you're searching for, inspire,
which is now 2 million things.
Yeah, and it's like very high, it's very high signal. Like a lot of people, what they love most about it is that like the quality of the stuff is really good. And so that I think is one of the benefits of searching through here is that you're not searching the entire internet. You're searching what other people have decided is worthy of being added to their library. So it makes it so that the stuff in here and that the stuff that you get access to is really high quality. But it's all from other people's libraries. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Somebody asked about private groups, and maybe a good time to share about adding collaborations to collections.
Definitely, yeah. So let me hit. So when you create a collection, so let's say this is like, this might be something internal for us at Sublime of like, mood board for 2025 vibe for Sublime. I can make that private. I don't want everybody to see that yet, but then I can turn on collaborators and I can invite Sari and Gabe to this, and they don't actually even have to be on Sublime. So I could, like I could invite Lauren. I'm not gonna put my wife's. I'm not gonna put her actual email, but let's just say it was Lauren at Gmail. I could invite her like that, and this would send her an invite to join Sublime and be part of this collection. And what's really nice about that is once that's created, I'm not gonna actually do it right now, but you'll be notified when anybody adds anything to those collections. So this is a nice time to just talk about notifications generally. So I get notified when people I follow create collections, when people follow me, when people add cards from my library to theirs, and you can decide. There's settings for what kinds of notifications you want, both via email and in app. So that's very customizable. But I really like. See you later, Brad. Thanks for coming. I really like this as a way of, it's like a nice social thing that doesn't feel like it's toxic and makes me like, fiending for more of it. It's a lot more wholesome in how it works. How can I know that I trust those people? Yeah, that I don't know, but can be happy that they are people. Yes, exactly. And also like it's a leap of faith. And one thing that I really love doing that I would really recommend you all do is like when you're going down these rabbit holes, like, pick a card like this and you can click on that 10 here and see whose libraries this is in. And I would just like go ahead and click in on people's profiles and, look around and decide to follow some people and see what collections they've created and like how they're thinking about stuff. It's like, I don't know, it's definitely one of my favorite things is just like seeing how other people are collecting things and organizing their thoughts. So
I think another kind of thing I would say about like the trusting people is I always dreamed of a semantically searchable library for the world's like best ideas, concepts, sentences, like the stuff that, if you were to like ask ChatGPT, like you're just going to get the generic internet stuff, which is great in some cases. Sometimes you're looking for answers, but sometimes you're looking for journey. And I think that Sublime is more the latter, right? It's when, there's a quote that goes, the adventure of a sentence is more exciting than the adventure of plot. And I think that like is like a good metaphor for Sublime. Like sometimes it's like you need to read the original source, the sentence and the way it was intended, not the, the summary of the whole space. It's like I have a collection on patience, because good things take time. Building great software takes time. And it's just, I'm thinking a lot about like patience and like playing the long game. I can ask ChatGPT, like, tell me good things about patience. It's just going to be generic crap. Whereas my patience collection, it just like makes me feel alive in some way. And I think that the best way that I know to find this kind of stuff on the internet, it's not Google, it's not ChatGPT. I started doing this stuff on my own, but like, why would I do it alone when I can do it in a network, in a community? And I think that the motivations matter. The people that are on Sublime, that are using Sublime, are using it as a tool. The metaphor here is not one of broadcasting or audience building. And so the result is like the things people are adding here are like high signal things that they found really interesting. And so, of course, like there might be like, as we grow, because right now it's just so lovely and wholesome, there might be like stuff that's not like awesome here and there. But overall, I think just the in a very kind of like medium is the message sort of way, I think that the metaphor for how people engage with Sublime solves for a lot of the kind of like quality stuff, is my view.
yeah, I just kind of did another example of like, searching. A question that I have often is like, how do you think about growing your audience without losing your soul? And there's really cool ideas in Sublime about that. Whereas if you go to ChatGPT, like this isn't wrong. It's just kind of like soulless, And sometimes that's good. That's fine. But a lot of the times I would much rather, kind of get lost in like people's thoughts and ideas. And yeah. Is there another way to communicate with others via chat? Not yet. We do, because we haven't mentioned it, we do have a Slack. Yeah, in the meantime, join our Slack. So Gabe will drop, I could put it into, Lee keeps dropping really sweet. Oh, community archive. Nice. Oh, this is cool. Yeah, see, I'm going to add this to I have a collection on Sublime called Little Sites Doing Cool Things. And so I'm going to add this to that. Where I just collect like little websites that do one weird, cool thing really well. Similar effort toward the open source semantic web. Nice. Cool. Other questions, thoughts? I know I'm so amazed that you guys are here still and really grateful that you took this time to hang with us. And yeah, we're around for another few minutes if people have thoughts, and if not, we can wrap this up. I just left my job going through Slack withdrawal. Can't wait to join. Nice. Yeah, I guess I can kind of stop there, and if you have anything to close with, Sadi.
I'm curious if this was useful, and we'll definitely circulate the slides and recording. But yeah, so grateful that you all took the time to join. All of us are an email away, Sari at sublime.app, Alex at sublime.app, Gabriel at sublime.app. I'm happy as a perk to everyone that joined here to just onboard you one-on-one and help you get set up. But yeah, I'm just curious to see if the stuff that we kind of live and breathe daily resonated with all of you.
Yeah, I feel like so much of this is like we talk about it every day, all day. And so if there are things that like, there are often things that we just take for granted. And I'm curious, yeah, if there are questions or things people want more clarity on. Awesome work. Thank you so much. Resonate. Damn right it does. What a bright future to look forward to. Hell yeah. Yeah, I put all of our links on Sublime too, so you guys can follow us, and I will need more workshop tutorials as the possibilities are mind-blowing. Yeah, definitely. This is something we do fairly regularly. And I think like getting feedback from y'all of like, you want a workshop specifically on this or on that, like that's really helpful for us to know what to put our energy into. And there's going to be a lot more how I Sublime videos coming out very soon of like how cool people on Sublime are using it. Is there a link for gifting this Christmas? That's a good.
I would love that. Email me. I think some other people have emailed me and we've made that happen for them. So Allison, you can email me at sari@sublime.app, and I think it's a great gift. And then invites, Karen, are in your settings. So do you want to screen share real quick and show Karen where invites are?
Yes. Cool. So if you go here to your home screen and then here into your set. Oh no, it's right here actually. So if you just hit invites when you click on your profile picture, or your initials will be there, just hit invites and then you copy invite link. I have a bunch because I work here, but everybody starts with 5, and if you need more, just let us know. Invite a pro user to be a guest and demo how they use it. Yeah, we should definitely do that. That is kind of what How I Sublime is, but I think, yeah, just having like live version. We've actually done that with Keely, and that I think that's up on YouTube. Suggestion for next time: show and tell of Sublime note taking. Let a workshop attendee screen share a note they found saved so people can see how others do it. After 5 of these, people would see something relatable, relevant to their specific use case.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's great.
If you want to do that right now, Cam, you can. We don't have to wait. No pressure though.
I think I think you need a little heads up just so you've got something cool that you want to share that, and
Okay.
I think something that's really magical about what you all have done is there's a real feeling component to it. I think it summarizes by a lot of note taking is so um, cerebral. And I think what Sari's really hitting is like, hey, this is about things outside of the neocortex. And so that's why I think it'd be cool to have like a rapid fire of, one note at a time, people kind of guesting in the same way they ask a question in a Q&A. They would just share the note and get to say like why it resonated. Because again, I think for me, what's really magic about what you all do is it really opens up, hey, this is beyond cerebral stuff where there's taxonomy. This is into like, how does it make you feel? Which is cool, especially if you're not wired that way, which I am not. So I really dig it and appreciate the workshop, guys.
Thank you, Cam. Yeah. I can just quickly share a card that I really loved recently, which is from the Principia Discordia, which is like this very weird satirical religion that these 2 guys made that then became like Robert Anton Wilson's obsession with. Anyways, it's a very weird rabbit hole, but it starts with this line of like, they were indulging in their habit of sipping coffee at an all-night bowling alley and generally solving the world's problems. For some reason, that just made me laugh. And so I added it. You can learn a lot more about that in this book called The KLF. I don't know if anybody here is up on that book, but it's about a band in Britain that burned 1 million pounds, and like the world kind of lost their minds because you're not supposed to do that. And it's connected to like Discordianism and all these other things. I'm just talking about stuff I like now. Love the oh yeah, man. This is like one of my favorite books of all time. Like, yeah. Just so good. And so much about like conspiracy theories and like just like the modern moment is like in the ideas that were like being played with in this book, and in Discordianism and like, yeah, magic and like, yeah, that's my big theory, is that we're returning back to a time that's more about magic and less about logic. I feel like we hit peak logic and now we're heading back. That I do need to write an essay on. I feel like I've mentioned that a couple times.
Yeah, I actually have a collection on, like, I think it's called Data versus Intuition. I think about that a lot. I 100% agree, where we've hit like peak logic.
But logic is it's so powerful. I mean, it's such and it's hard to disprove it.
Yeah.
Like by talking about your feelings or talking about intuition,
It's so measurable too, which is what's hard about the intangible stuff.
Magic is the seed of curiosity and wonder. Yeah. Weird Studies, the podcast, that's another strong recommend if you're into like weird magic art stuff. Weird Studies, I would highly recommend. And then one more recommendation, just because why not? There Is No Anti-Memetics Division, this book. Has anybody read that? It is so good. It's so like haunting. It's, yeah, very intense. I was telling Gabe about it. Brain effer, LOL. Yeah. I can't stop reading it though. The KLF author has a great newsletter, lots of great podcasts. Yeah, he's awesome. He wrote a book about William Blake too. The title is There Is No Anti-Memetics Division. And it's about how like there are things that are called anti-memes, which are like things that make that you forget as soon as you see or hear or learn about them. Like they can't be remembered. It's crazy. A collection with these recommendations could be public and the notes could hold reasons. Yeah, definitely. I could do that. I'll do that. I'll drop it in the Slack. Just the idea of like an anti-meme. Because I feel that way with like things I learn about life, or I'm like, oh yeah, I learned this, and then I forget it. And it's like, that's an anti-meme. It's like not meant to be remembered or something. Anyways, I gotta stop talking. I'll stop.
Yeah, by the way, if anyone, I think everyone was default muted because there were a lot of us, but we're getting to the end here. So if anyone wants to say something, I think we can unmute, or I don't know how that works.
Yeah, you can just unmute yourselves. I also just think it's incredible that like 200 people stuck around for 2 hours. I mean, a little under 200, but to talk about knowledge libraries. It's so that's beautiful. All right, last call for anything, questions, thoughts. Bars, 200 peeps. Yeah, we're gonna send the recording and the slides, and we're all around if you have questions. Like, we love chatting with people, so definitely feel free to reach out. Any last words, Sadi, or are we good?
I am just so grateful that all of you are here, and I hope this was a good use of your time. That's always the bar that we try to, the standard we try to hold ourselves to is, would we want to sit through this for an hour or two? So I hope we met that bar for all of you. And yeah, send us, I mean, Sublime is still a baby. You know, we're growing, but we're still, I think we're still like 1% of like the way they are in terms of the vision. And yeah, we just want all of you to come with us on this journey. The product will get better. We're just deepening the utility and just like working so hard to make this better. We care about this so much. And whether, you know, I think the one thing I would say to wrap up is a lot of people that are drawn to this space, they're endlessly like tool hopping, thinking that the next tool will be the kind of the breakthrough. And I think that the thing I would say, like, of course, like as somebody who is like building Sublime, like, yes, I built it because was the tool I wish I had, but you just have to commit to something, anything, you know, it's like commit to something, commit to like collecting and connecting and creating with your ideas. And I think that intentionality is like the best productivity tool that there ever was. So I hope that Sublime is the tool for you, but regardless of whether it is the tool for you, just commit to something.
Yeah, and I've gotten a couple private chats about like how to pay for Sublime and how to upgrade. So I just want to show you guys that real quick. You can do it from when you're logged in, or you can also do it from the homepage, where you just hit get access. We have this pay what you want thing that we really like, where you can choose the price for annual or lifetime, and hit get access, and then you get unlimited cards, unlimited related cards, everything. I just wanted to, I think if a couple people asked, a lot more people are probably wondering. So
Yeah, and maybe I'll scroll down just to show people. Yeah, I mean the key stuff. I mean the premium stuff is unlimited stuff to your library, unlimited related ideas, unlimited private collections. We haven't added Canvas here, but yes, you can add unlimited canvases. Also the integrations, Kindle, Readwise. We're working on Twitter and Instagram bookmarks, so you can easily import that stuff to Sublime. But then also the kind of touchy-feely perks, if you join us, now you'll get that first badge next to your name. And I have no idea, but I hope that'll be worth something one day. And then we do a lot of stuff like we create content for our members. We try to do a lot of like building in public. So you just get like access to our zines and like, a lot of like behind the scenes stuff because we try to be as open about the journey. It's been like the best way to make this like crazy brain that we have an obsession with these themes just like feel more communal. So there's a lot of that stuff too, if you do decide to join us.
Yeah, this is the zine that we just released that James gave a very nice shout out to. And yeah, we sold out of the first edition and now we're doing the second edition, but I'm biased because I did all the interviews, but I think it's really sweet. And you get 25% off of that if you are a Sublime Premium member. Okay. Any other social integrations?
I'll taking requests. I mean, first of all, I don't want to understate how complex it is to integrate with this stuff. We went from 50,000 cards at the beginning of the year to 2 million, and like just like I think at least 25% of our tiny team's resources are going towards infrastructure and scale. So hope like we want to support as many as possible, but it takes a little bit of time. Twitter is a hellhole. Yeah, I don't know. I'm still in that hellhole somehow. But Twitter and Instagram, I don't know. Yeah, we have to look into Blue Sky. Some of these platforms make it really hard to like bookmark and integrate with. But yeah, send us your dreams and wishes and we'll make them come true.
Yeah, is there a Blue Sky to Readwise integration in the meantime?
I don't think there is one yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do it soon.
They don't even have a bookmarking feature yet. Blue Sky doesn't. I know people have been wanting that. I like Blue Sky a lot. I enjoy it. Okay, y'all. Have a great rest of the day. Thank you again for being here. This is really, really, really special. Happy holidays too. Yeah. And yeah, come join us in the Slack if you want to hang out. We'll be there. Bye.